With the end of the initial Sangheili resistance to the Writ of Union, their warlike race became the enforcers of the will of the Covenant. Here followed the beginning of the Sangheili, whom we referred to as the elites of the High Council of Sangheili and San'Shyuum, and the beginning of a great construction, the creation of the homeworld that would become High Charity, a holy city free to move about in the void, a world and a power formed around the keyship of the Great Ones, and sacred land derived from Jiralhanae herself, which brought the mercy of deliverance to the converted throughout the galaxy. Thus was the Age of Reconciliation, the true seed of the Age of Conversion. The new age was vested in the adaptation of all other sentient species that came to our attention, a conversion that came about through the domination of Revelation itself, and when necessary, Conquest. Nearly 70 cycles after signing the Writ of Union, a Covenant fleet stumbled upon the gas giant Tay. Surrounded by a ring of rock and debris, the shattered remains of a Forerunner orbital. An eel-like species called the Lekgolo were the cause of the installation's demise, and remained on the ring and Tay's moons ever since. This was considered a mighty sacrilege, and the hierarchs declared war on these worm-like beings. Our Sangheili warriors struggled to eliminate the species without damaging what remained of the holy relics, but this only resulted in greater losses. The Lekgolo were able to bind themselves together, forming substance gestalts of remarkable resilience and strength, fierce and powerful behemoths against which the Covenant military had little defense. It was thanks to the astute arbiter, Lekgolo, who ventured across one of Tay's moons, Rontu, that we were able to discover that the Lekgolo could be tamed and used to clear debris from the surface of Forerunner artifacts, aiding in excavations. A truce was brokered which offered amnesty to the Lekgolo for their service to the Covenant. This agreement bore even sweeter fruit, for after many cycles, San'Shyuum priests would employ chosen Lekgolo to scour the informational pathways of the Dreadnought, granting them greater access to the ship than they ever had before, leading to the discovery of the great oracle housed within the vessel. It would enigmatically communicate to the holy monks studying the ship on very rare occasions. But when it did, it brought deliverance and clarity to all. High Charity's completion would finally come over 100 cycles later. I find this suspicious, seeing as it was at this time that our birth world, Jiralhanae, was said to have been destroyed from a devastating stellar collapse. Mysterious and guarded about their past, the hierarchs refused to provide coordinates of the event to verify this claim. I suspect intrigue was at play in these events, but for the moment it is only supposition. From this point forward, our holy city became the center of Covenant power, and from it, we deployed countless fleets into the outer reaches of the galaxy in the unwavering search of the sacred rings. This would continue largely unimpeded for centuries, until the Covenant finally encountered other civilizations, some which deeply tested our resolve. The first of these would come hundreds of cycles later, where a Covenant flotilla discovered Palamok, the home of the Yanme'e, trillions of tenacious and defensive sentient insectoids who thrived in their planet's oppressive conditions, ruled by their matriarchal queens. Believing the world to have sacred Forerunner relics hidden below its surface, the Covenant initially engaged the Yanme'es in a fierce battle, but this proved fruitless, costing the Sangheili thousands of lives. It was only under the threat of extinction from incredible firepower by Covenant warships that the Yanme'es finally agreed to parley, and a convocation of Hive Queens consigned their drones into our service. When the holy sites proved inaccessible, the Covenant allowed them to join the hegemony, incorporating their drones first as workers, then over time, as warriors. About 200 cycles later, the Covenant discovered the Kig-Yar, an avian civilization which occupied Ian, the primary satellite of the planet Chuat and its surrounding asteroids. Despite ages of hostility between their own colonies, the Kig-Yar forged a powerful united front against us, as we sought access to a holy Forerunner facility buried deep within one of their habitats. After a series of victories by the Covenant, which had proven our naval superiority, missionaries were dispatched to reach an agreement. To their surprise, the Kig-Yar were uninterested in Forerunner relics. but used them to force an armistice. We offered them letters of marque, employing these jackals as privateers, mercenaries, and contractors. In exchange, the Covenant would explore and excavate the abandoned Forerunner Temple without restriction. Despite being driven exclusively by monetary gain, the Kig-Yar proved to be one of the most versatile and resilient members of the Covenant, though they were rather quarrelsome with other races at times. Roughly 400 cycles ago, the Covenant encountered the Unggoy, a squat, arthropodal species on the icy world of Balaho. Whereas most species were grafted into the Covenant by faith or mutual beneficence, the Unggoy were not such. Absent of Forerunner artifacts, they were conquered and brought into the fold by force, for their world had no prayer against our might and majesty. Thousands upon thousands were taken from their primitive huts, taken off Balaho, to high charity and other tithe worlds to serve as laborers and thralls, to serve at our whims and pleasures. It was at this time that the existing arbiter, San'Shyuum, openly challenged the High Prophet of Solemnity, an act of dissent that led to the death of his mate and a vicious, bloody confrontation with the Hierarch's infamous enforcer, Haka Sukari. In the end, not only would both warriors die, but the mantle of Arbiter would forever be converted from a place of high station into a badge of shame. He would henceforth be known to history as the Defiant One. It was here that the Hierarchs established the line of Immaculate Succession, a dramatic shift not only in the role of Arbiter, but even in the Sangheili's standing within the Covenant. Since then, there had been a total of 18 Arbiters within this line. Centuries later, feuding between the Kig-Yar and Unggoy on high charity culminated in the infusion incident. The Kig-Yar had poisoned an Unggoy narcotic, leading to a widespread sterilization, and ultimately, a large-scale rebellion. Once fully provoked, the Unggoy were merciless in their violence, lashing out on all species. Their large numbers and their tenacious volatility made them a suitable challenge, even for the elites. But this revolt, this Unggoy Rebellion, was only stemmed by a unilateral attack on Balaho, under the direction of the unrelenting arbiter, Heki-Gabadi, subduing the Unggoy. Though from this point forward, they would simply be incorporated as the grunts of the Covenant military, their resolve and ability now proven in battle. After which time they became the Covenant's most devoted seekers after the Great Journey, sacrificing themselves in great numbers on the battlefield, so prolific that more seemed always ready to throw themselves upon the altar of war. The last race to join our Holy Empire came nearly 70 solar cycles ago, when the Covenant came upon a war-torn world called Doisak, and found themselves pitted against the powerful and ruthless Jiralhanae. This encounter came on the heels of a bloody civil war between Jiralhanae warpacks, known as the Great Immolation, with Doisak teetering on the edge of nuclear winter. Vicious fighters, their wars had reduced them from a higher civilization to one hampered by only feeble technology. Thus, their resistance to the Covenant was short-lived, helped along by an alliance of young chieftains who eagerly adopted the Empire's tenets and served with extraordinary zeal, showing a depth of devotion that impressed even our most cynical of prophets. Despite the deep reservations by the Sangheili, the High Prophets offered a truce with the Jiralhanae, and the elites reluctantly conceded, placing these brutes under close scrutiny and in easily controlled roles. This tenuous relationship would begin to expose cracks in the foundation of the Covenant that would ultimately lead to its eventual downfall.